Have you ever heard of a war where the enemy was not another nation, but a bird species? Welcome to the Emu War. Picture this. The year is 1932, and in the vast, sun-baked plains of Western Australia, a conflict is brewing. But this isn't your typical war. No, this one is between man and bird. Over 20,000 emus, large flightless birds native to Australia, are causing havoc among the farming communities. The crops are being decimated, livelihoods threatened, and the usual methods of deterrence are proving ineffective. In a move that's as desperate as it is bizarre, the Australian government decides to deploy soldiers armed with machine guns. Yes, you heard it right. Machine guns against birds. This strange and somewhat comical chapter of history is the Emu War, an event so unique it hardly seems real. So buckle up, history enthusiasts. Now let's dive into the details of this peculiar war. The year is 1932 in Western Australia. Our story begins with the arrival of over 20,000 emus. As summer descended upon the Australian outback, a feathered force of nature was on the move. Emus, those tall, flightless birds native to Australia, were migrating inland from the coastal regions in search of water and food. Their journey, driven by instinct and survival, led them to the fertile farmlands of Western Australia. These were not your average garden variety pests. Emus are large, powerful birds that can stand up to 6 feet tall and run at speeds of over 30 miles per hour. As they descended upon the farmlands, the emus brought with them a wave of destruction. Acres of wheat crops, the livelihood of the local farmers, were decimated. The scale of the problem was immense, and the farmers' desperation palpable. Their fields laid to waste, their hard work undone by an unstoppable avian invasion. With their livelihoods threatened, the farmers sought help from the government. The government, seeing the plight of the farmers, decided to intervene. In an unexpected twist to this unique chapter of history, the Australian government took the decision to deploy soldiers armed with machine guns. This wasn't the usual enemy one would expect an army to face, but the emus had become a real threat to the livelihoods of the local farmers. The government's rationale was simple. The emus were a nuisance. They were damaging crops, and they needed to be controlled. And who better to control such a situation than the military? The soldiers, on their part, were optimistic. They were trained, they had the firepower, and they were up against birds. How hard could it be? But as they soon found out, these were no ordinary birds. The emus were elusive, fast, and surprisingly resilient. The soldiers found themselves in a peculiar battlefield, where their enemy neither stood ground to fight nor followed any predictable patterns. The emus would scatter and regroup, making it difficult for the soldiers to aim or cause any significant damage to their numbers. In addition, the vast open lands of Western Australia provided the perfect cover for these avian adversaries. They would disappear into the wilderness, only to reappear in a different location, continuing their crop destruction spree. Despite their best efforts, the soldiers found themselves outwitted at every turn. Their traditional warfare tactics seemed ineffective against this unconventional foe. The emus, it seemed, were not just a group of mindless birds, but a formidable force that knew the terrain and used it to their advantage. This unexpected resistance from the emus led to a lot of frustration among the ranks. It wasn't just about controlling a pest anymore. It had become a matter of pride. The soldiers had underestimated their enemy, and the emus were proving to be a tougher adversary than anyone could have predicted. The emus, it seemed, were not an enemy to be underestimated. Despite initial setbacks, the fight against the emus continued. Soldiers, armed with unwavering determination, adapted their battle strategies in an attempt to outmaneuver these feathered adversaries. They tried mounting machine guns on trucks, hoping to match the speed and agility of the emus. Yet the birds, with their uncanny ability to scatter and regroup, proved to be elusive targets. The emus, not your typical enemy, displayed remarkable resilience. They could absorb multiple rounds and still run at full speed, their strong legs propelling them across the vast Australian landscape, leaving the soldiers in their dust. The emus were not just surviving, they were thriving, their populations seemingly undeterred by the military's efforts. As the operation dragged on, public sentiment began to shift. The spectacle of soldiers, armed to the teeth, chasing after birds, was met with a mixture of amusement and disbelief. The media, initially supportive of the government's efforts to help the farmers, began to question the operation's efficacy and purpose. The war became the subject of ridicule in the international press, and the government faced mounting criticism. There were calls for the military to withdraw, with critics arguing that the operation was a waste of resources. The government, sensitive to the public's changing mood, began to reconsider its approach. As weeks turned into months, the futility of the operation became clear. The emus were not being contained, and the damage to the crops continued unabated. The military, having expended a great deal of ammunition with little to show for it, made the decision to withdraw. In the end, the emus had proven to be a formidable foe. The military withdrew, leaving the farmers to their fate. The Emu War left a lasting legacy in Australian history, albeit a quirky one. In the wake of this unconventional conflict, farmers continued to grapple with emus encroaching on their land, a testament to the resilience and adaptability of these flightless birds. But necessity is the mother of invention, and these agriculturalists found their own solutions over time, developing more effective fencing and land management strategies to protect their crops. The Emu War, in all its peculiarity, has carved a unique place in Australian history. It's not just an amusing anecdote of soldiers wielding machine guns against emus, but a story that underscores the power of nature, the challenges of human-animal coexistence, and the unexpected hurdles faced in a burgeoning nation. Today, it is a tale recounted with a mix of humour and disbelief, a slice of Australian heritage that echoes in its landscapes and in the spirit of its people. The Emu War serves as a reminder of the unpredictability of nature and the resilience of animals, a war that was won not by soldiers, but by emus.